let's go ahead and hear from someone from room 4, and then because I would like to have time then for us to respond as a group to all of the reports. So Jan, Karen, Tom, Lewis, group 4.
I'll begin, but I'm hoping Tom will jump in. You had a key insight at the last that I didn't quite get. We kind of had a times conversation. We talked about what happened with the Quad meeting as, oh, is that me or?
Let's see. We're just getting a bit of feedback.
Yes. Anyway, so the Quad gathering, if you don't know, the four countries from Asia meeting with the US and okay, and we also explored Biden's speech to the US nation, and one Canadian's kind of dismayed at we were back to the conversations about we'll be first and we'll do this first, and there's a lot of other good things, you know, in that talk, but that part about being first again and having to be there, and the Canadian was a little dismayed. I was the Canadian. that was again the language, and what did it mean to build back in little ways, and how did those little ways build more of an inclusive society, not again one nation driving the response, one nation being the shining light on the hillside we used to talk about. But how do we build that? How do we enable, when we do the small little things, that it is in inclusive ways that also honors the wisdom of other cultures and other nations? Definitely a concern about China. And I'm going to then turn it to Tom.
The phrase that was interesting to me was the phrase Jan used at the end of our small group session, which was developing inclusive myths, MYTHS, okay? To me, that's where we are when Jan describes it as a time travel. Participants were mentioning everything from the post-World War II period, not as something read in a book, but as lived experience. All, you know, to the present time, when we've just come out of the wrenching trauma of the Trump regime. So we were, in fact, doing exactly what Jan, I think, was saying. But you see, it's developing. There's so many possibilities, it seems to me, both on large scale and small scale. And we're dealing with the shift from the post World War II mindset, where the United States dominated for any number of reasons, into a world where there's a whole bunch of, you know, give and take, and, you know, we're trying to rebuild things, we're trying to reshape things. And I think developing inclusive myths is where we're at. Anybody else want to add to that?
I think I'll put in one more part that came from the news about the inclusiveness, and it had to do with the Meghan Markle and Harry interview with Oprah this last week, ripped from the headlines, and Harry's comment that he did not realize that his family was racist until he had to view the family through the eyes of his wife. And I think that's part of where we're at, is how do we, you know, from the Western world, begin view the world from, I've had a small window on Nepal for 20 years. But how do we view it from that perspective and then create all these little ways of change that need to happen.
We did hear from Louis Pierce also, and his works for the last 11 or let's see, 9 years, and he's been funding 230 Ghanaians to go through school in terms of trying to position them for the new leadership of Ghana, as well as his dental clinic. But these, you know, it seems like I imagine it seems like a little thing by yourself, but it makes a big difference, I think.
I was in that group too, and living in Rochester, Minnesota, every time I go to a specialist at Mayo, and with my afflictions, I go to a lot of them. The doctor that I see has a different resident, and usually that resident is from another country getting training so that they can go back over to that country. It's happening in other clinics around the United States, that people are getting trained and they're going back over and bringing our
Hope they're going back. Yeah.
knowledge to
Well, let's
bear.
quickly